Hello and welcome back to the 37th episode of my still unnamed survival series. In the last episode, we built this dock and rearranged all of our paths, as well as removing a building that was right behind me. Hopefully by moving that out of the way, we can expand our village further and further out until we make it to our base. And in today's episode, we're going to be doing just that. We are going to be expanding our village and adding a whole new section to it. I think you might be wondering about this new section of the village I'm referring to. Well, in the last few episodes, we built this dock area. It's not quite finished yet, but for now, we're going to leave it the way it is. To finish out that dock area, we need to finish out this area too. This area is eventually going to become a market square. It'll be filled with vendors and wagons and all sorts of little shops, as well as some potentially interesting landscaping. But there's a catch to this area. The market that we place here is also gonna double as my new storage system. One of the goals for this little area is to have a bunch of small and unique buildings. These unique buildings are also gonna represent what the shop is selling. So for example, a cobblestone shop might be shaped like a cave, while a log shop might look like a log cabin or something similar. A prismarine shop might have a prismarine roof, just something to represent what the shop itself is selling. We still have a lot of work to do before we can even think about designing any of these buildings. I need to figure out the redstone and how we're going to make these buildings look nice while still functioning as a redstone storage system. I also need to design that redstone storage system, as well as figuring out where I want these small little buildings to be. But I think for now, I'm going to mark out the center of where I think this little shopping district is going to sit, and I think that I'm going to mark this out by using some magenta colored wool. And this is where I'm thinking the center of our market square should be. The buildings we place around this are also kind of going to wobble with the path, but when the finished product is all said and done, I don't think there actually is going to be a path, and more like an open central market. With no connecting paths, it's all just going to be one path. I'm thinking we should move on to laying out the plots. I don't think that these buildings should be any bigger than 10 by 10. Maybe a few will be, depending on what we're housing in them. But for the most part, I think they're going to be around the same size of 10 by 10. I might try and put some of these buildings at a diagonal just to prevent myself from gridlocking this area. Alrighty, I've got 4 little plots marked out, and I'm pretty happy with how this looks. I like the proportion with the path and how it kind of curves with the path. So I don't think I'm going to add any more to this for now. I also need to figure out what items I want to store in this. But for now, I think I'm going to keep moving forward because I also need a place to build the redstone. And in order to do that, I am going to set up a beacon, add haste, and start digging. I'm going to be digging a pretty substantial hole underneath this market area. We need a lot of room for our redstone components and our redstone sorting system, as well as a bunch of water lines to move all of the items around to where they need to go. Redstone sorting systems are kind of big, so this hole that I've already dug needs to be bigger. I'm thinking at least 9 blocks bigger. And that's up and down, not side to side. We're gonna need a lot of room for these machines that are gonna fit down here, especially our water lines. We're also gonna need some special item elevators that probably won't use water. We might even have to adjust the designs of our shops to accommodate the redstone. This whole project is going to be a pretty massive one, so this is going to happen across a few episodes. We might even be bouncing back and forth between a few other projects. I also might try and knock this out in the next few episodes. I haven't really decided yet, but I think this is going to be a great addition to our world. There's a lot of work to be done, and I am really excited to take you guys on the journey of it. I am trying really hard to collect all the materials that we're digging up in this colossal hole. We might not be using diorite and granite now, but in the future we might. Who really knows? These blocks are craftable, but it's always a good practice not to waste materials, especially when you're getting a plethora of them from digging out this giant hole. Well, the hole is getting bigger and my will to continue is getting smaller, but I am gonna truck through and try and get this done in a timely fashion. But in all honesty, I am not a miner. I hate the mining part of Minecraft. And our hole is finally dug. I think this is enough room to fit any redstone storage system that I feel like putting in here, so we are gonna take a look up top. Now that we have enough room for the redstone underneath the world, I think it's about time that we build up one of these shacks. I think the best way to make this still look pretty and function as a redstone storage system is build the small buildings first and then add the redstone later. I would like these little buildings to store 2 to 5 different items each, or basically trying to cram as many items into each one while keeping the redstone nice and neat and the buildings looking pretty. I think to start things off, we are going to build our input store. This is where everything is going to be filtered down into the actual storage system via a couple chests sitting on this storefront. And like everything else in this little system, I have no idea how I'm actually going to accomplish this redstone, and we'll figure it out as we go on. Since these buildings are a little bit smaller, I'm gonna have to shrink the proportion because I can't quite get the detail using actual blocks, so I'm gonna have to use things like stairs and trapdoors just to get the extra little detail. The frames are also gonna be a little bit smaller, so instead of working in 5 wide, I'm gonna be working in 3 wide. Just to give it that extra little detail and scale down these shops just a little bit. Most of the blocks that I'm using here will actually allow light to pass through them. So I'm going to be putting sea lanterns behind most of these, and it's going to give this area kind of a bright and glowy feel. And as an added bonus, monsters won't be able to spawn around this area. And just to compare this scale, this is a scale of 3, while these buildings over here are a scale of 5. So yeah, there's 5 blocks between each little pillar, as opposed to here, which there's 3 blocks in between. So over on these smaller builds, we're scaling down the way we think of it, and hopefully we can get the same amount of detail we can on these larger buildings by just thinking about the way we build these slightly differently. And on that same line of thought of thinking about building differently, I'm gonna keep these buildings 1 story. I think it's gonna overcomplicate things if we try and go too high with this small build style. I haven't really built tiny before, so this is a nice change of pace for me. Now I'm going to start adding the small little detail blocks to the top of these pillars. I'm also going to connect these pillars up using trapdoors, and this is going to make a small little oval shape that I think is going to nicely frame the stone brick or whatever block we choose to make the walls out of. Since this is only the input chest and input shop, I think I'm going to try and match the village as best as possible, so there's not really an underlying theme with this building, so I'm probably going to try and mirror the village as best I can. Since everything is going in this shop, the theme should be everything, right? I would still like this to look like a shop though, so I'm going to add a little storefront in the form of a little table, shelf, whatever we want to call this thing. Whatever it is, it's going to wrap around the front and meet in the middle with kind of a little doorway. But I think that this is going to hold the chests and the redstone. I'm thinking the chests are going to sit right on the top of this and kind of act as a display area. This whole area might change a little bit when we start adding the redstone. We might have to change the design to hide it a little bit, but that's alright. I kind of anticipate that. But for now, I'm going to start working on this little overhang. Whenever I think of a medieval shop, they always seem to have a canopy, so that's what I'm going to add to this storefront as well. I like this awning, I like this shape, and I think I'm going to put some strips of brighter colored blocks between these wooden posts up the top. I think that's really going to pull this whole area together. But one thing that I don't like is it just looks like it's floating. I feel like it needs support. All canopies have some form of support, and this one needs one as well, but I'm kind of struggling on how I think I should go about it. I would like to put it on the outside of this table, but my chests are gonna go there. I'll put it right there. Yeah. I was thinking I should bring it up at an angle too, but I tried that and it looked a little bit too bulky, so I think I'm just gonna go straight up with this, and I think we're gonna keep that for now. I might go back and change these fence posts with another color of wood, just to give some variance and texture into this build instead of it all being made out of spruce. But for now, I think we'll keep that. I like that. I've also decided that I'm going to use a randomized stone texture for the walls of this build. Most of the buildings in our village have this, and this is really just to match the village as best we can. I do think I'm going to change up the windows a little bit. I had an idea that I think would look pretty good on these smaller builds, so I'm going to go ahead and leave a gap right in the middle of these walls so I can go back and put the windows in later. As I'm finishing out these walls, I'm going to start adding the windows. I kind of want to see how this looks with the overall build. So on this top block, I'm going to place a stair. And on this bottom block, an upside down stair. I'm also going to add a trapdoor on that top stair in hopes that it resembles a window shutter. But with that design, we have a center hole for our window pane, a little bit more depth to our wall, and a little bit more detail to our wall, which I love in these smaller builds. Overall, I think I'm happy with that design. Since this building is already very small and we're making it smaller with the wall depth, the inside of this is only going to be about 1 block wide, essentially a 1 block wide, 6 block long hallway, which is going to be perfectly fine because the inside of this shop is going to house our staircase down to the inner workings of the redstone mechanisms. So this will be the entrance for the items and me. Now that the bottom and the walls are both looking good, I think the roof needs some love. So I'm gonna finish out this brick texture on the top and make it so there's no holes in it whatsoever. This randomized texture also makes very good looking floors, so it's a win-win. I also think that I'm going to add a railing on this roof, and I think I'm going to do it in the simplest way possible by doing one of my favorite methods for railing, which is the fence gate archway between 2 walls. We're working with 3s right now, so this is pretty much perfect for this situation. I think I overused this just a little bit, so we might dial it back here in the future. I'm also going to cover up these sea lanterns with some slabs. That way light will still pass through, and we can give this area a little bit of an archway by placing some trapdoors next to the slabs. I like this design, and I think it pulls this whole roof area together. Now that everything is looking pretty good and pretty complete, I think we should work on the awning, but unfortunately, we have a problem. I can't find any of the blocks that I wanted to use for this. I've looked through all the chests on the main village and I can't find anything I'm looking for. I was looking for red sandstone or even red sand to make red sandstone because I wanted to use that for the awning. So I'm going to be searching my world through any chest I can think of in any area I can think of to look for some red sandstone that we may already have. None here, so next place. And the next stop is the mob farms. I have a lot of chests over here to fill with a lot of random junk. Oh, and some goodies. I could actually use those beehives, but I'm not seeing any red sandstone. Let's check these furnaces too. Nothing but glass. Cool. We haven't been down here in a while. If you recall from the earlier parts in the series, this was our starter base right below the village. This housed an old gold farm, now a copper farm using drowns. I do have a few chests down here and they did have some pretty good stuff. Ooh, diamonds. They do have some pretty good stuff in them still. Hopefully there's a little bit of red sand as well, but I'm not thinking we're gonna find anything. It just looks like a bunch of leftover junk that I didn't feel like we needed. I might come back for those glass panes though. Those are kind of a good color. But there's none here either. The last place that I can think to look is now my useless mine. I have a sorting system down here that filters out junk, and it may have made its way down here. I should probably empty out these chests too. There's some pretty good stuff in this area too. I really need a central storage system just to shove all this stuff. Not seeing any down here either. Wait, was that ancient debris? That is. I'm gonna take that too. Well, as it turns out, I don't have any red sand or red sandstone anywhere in this world, so I think that I'm going to fly out to that mesa biome that we found earlier on in this series. There was a red desert around there somewhere. However, I'm not sure if it still exists with the new 1.18 terrain generation. I did save that mesa biome when I was trimming chunks for the 1.18 update, so it might still exist, it might not. But there's only one way to find out, so let's fly out and have a look. I actually have no idea how far away this is, so I'm gonna prepare by making a whole bunch of rockets, putting them in my ender chest, and then taking my ender chest with me. I would like to be prepared for anything that happens on this journey, however far away it may be. But now that we're all packed up and ready to go, I think we're also going to explore the new terrain generation of 1.18. This is the first time we've actually ventured outside of our village since the update. Is that what I think it is? That's a bamboo forest. This is the first time I've actually seen one of these naturally spawn in my world. Oh my gosh, we can get pandas now. I'm not seeing any pandas though. Ooh, I found a panda. I found 2 pandas. You are gonna be my friends. I'm gonna come back for you guys. I'm gonna remember where you guys are. Good day, goodbye. We are definitely in the mesa biome now, and it's definitely supposed to be a birch forest with a new terrain generation. So I think we are gonna sleep the night away and then start mining some of this red sandstone. I don't think that I'm gonna need a whole bunch of this, but I will need enough to finish out this shop and maybe a few more. Orange is a color that I would like to start using a little bit more in the village and a little bit more in general. But for now, we are just gonna grab 2 stacks of this. We are now back in the village with our red sand in hand, and this is actually not the block we're after. We are after smooth red sandstone. And to get that block, it's kind of a lengthy process. We need to open up the crafting menu, combine 4 red sand blocks into 1 red sandstone, put it in the furnace and smelt it down into smooth red sandstone. And then we're just gonna wait a little bit. After we've smelted up our red sandstone, we're gonna grab a block of quartz, smelt that up too, and turn that into a smooth block of quartz. After that, we are gonna grab both of our smooth blocks, take it over to the stone cutter, and turn both of these into the slab variants. I'm gonna try and keep this awning as thin as possible, so we are gonna be working with slabs instead of full blocks. We still need some small orange carpets for some details on that awning, so I am going to grow some flowers and make some orange dye. We should have everything we need to finish out our awning. I did kind of want you to be able to see the orange from the side, so right here I'm going to be using the full blocks of orange. Then once we move down the awning, thin it up using the slabs. I do want the end of this awning thin like an actual awning would be. Now that we have our orange in place, I am going to add the white. I really like the striped look of this awning, and I think I'm going to do this a little bit more with any other shop that we build too. Now we're going to change our focus to something a little bit different. If you look at this trapdoor right next to the slab, technically it is on top of a block. So we're going to switch to the bottom and put some trapdoors underneath this one. Moving it out to the side to fill out the rest of this awning, and that's going to give us the frame for our awning. Now we're going to go back to the top of this awning and place some carpets on top of the trapdoors we just placed. This is going to give us a thin looking awning and really bring the detail together for this front. I think that is going to look very nice. And if we hop down to the front of this build and take a look at the awning, we can see that it looks very thin from the front. It actually looks like a tarp or something fabric-like, which is exactly what I wanted. But now we're going to start putting the windows in and move on to the rest of the details for this build. And to do that, we're going to need to grab some very special blocks. I'm going to grab some flower pots and some item frames, as well as a couple different flowers to fill up those flower pots. I am going to craft a couple chains, as well as enchant a couple emeralds. Now that I've grabbed everything I need, I'm going to place down a couple of these chests on either side of this table, place down some item frames. These item frames are actually going to be kind of important because this is going to be our user interface. This is what's going to tell us what these chests are. When you place a renamed object inside of an item frame, the name floats above the item frame, which is pretty cool. Now I'm just going to add some multicolored flowers to this shop, make it look a little bit prettier than it is, and I'm going to add these on both sides of the chests. One right next to the item frame, and then the other right on the side of this desk. And how does that look? That looks pretty good, but I think that we can hang a few lanterns from these trapdoors up at the top, which is exactly why I made these chains. So you can't actually place lanterns right on trapdoors. You have to put a chain there first and then attach your lantern to the chain. I'm not really a fan of the chains, but I'm pretty happy with this design. I'm also going to add some lanterns up on the top on these walls. I think this is going to bring the whole thing together. I think it's also going to breathe a little bit of life into it and make it a little bit more detailed as well. It looks good, it's usable, and I really love the emerald interface. I actually really love this little design, and I think it mixes really well with the village. Let me know what you think though. I would love to hear your thoughts about my little shop. Now that this shack is pretty much done, we are going to do some quick little terraforming under and around the shop just to get rid of this podzol? Is that what it's called? I always forget the name of this block. But I would like this area to be nice, pretty, full of green grass. But anyway, let's start that terraforming. And after finishing up that terraforming, I think it's about time that we finish up today's episode as well. We are about out of time, so we're gonna have to say goodbye. We did get a lot done today, and we are going to keep getting things done in the next few episodes. This storage system is going to be a unique one, and hopefully a cool one as well. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. But for now, my name is Red Skies, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. If you're still watching, thank you. I really appreciate it. And here's something new. I've got my socials right here down below. If you're at all interested, take a look, take a click, maybe meander on over there to some of those pages and take a look-see. But anyway, as usual, if you have any tips or tricks for using DaVinci Resolve or video editing in general, please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear your opinion.